We are go for launch in T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff. Destination, the Grace in Space Podcast.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Grace in Space Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Grace Frazier, and I am super stoked to introduce y'all to my guest today. She's an aerospace engineer at NASA and the founder of the Girl in Space Club. She is Sabrina Thompson. Sabrina, super excited to have you on the show today.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
For sure. So would you mind telling us just like a little bit about yourself for maybe people who don't know?
Well, sure. I mean, aside from what you have already mentioned, I was actually the artsy kid that stumbled upon the space industry. Always had an artsy background, but no formal training in art and design. However, spent many of years, so I'm 15 years in at NASA designing orbits and trajectories for NASA missions. Been doing that for some time, and then started a company, Girl in Space Club, where we're basically bringing space down to Earth, of course, using fashion and also, adding a little space and some science and tech in there. So we look at it as an opportunity to educate and also elevate.
Well, that's awesome. I'm super excited to dive a little bit more into that. I guess maybe let's start with, so you said you were like the artsy kid in school. Like, I guess at what point did you decide like engineering was kind of the direction that you wanted to go from that?
Yeah, so it's crazy because so in high school I was a valedictorian, um, and it was getting pretty late. Everyone knew where they were going as far as college, and I was like, I didn't think about this part of my life. Right? I just wanted to draw. Right?
Yeah.
I would just draw and have fun and play basketball, and everything else would work itself out. But it was my art teacher who saw I was struggling and I didn't know what to do. So she stepped in, and actually the first thing she thought of was industrial design, ironically. And yeah, but I didn't have a portfolio that really um my portfolio was like, yeah, you could draw, but like you're just drawing things that you see, right? You're not drawing things from your imagination, right? I drew people, but not things. So, so that didn't work. So we applied to Syracuse, their industrial design program. That didn't work. Um, and then it was like, well, you're good at math, you're good at science, and you're creative. So won't you try engineering? And I'm like, what is that? So So literally, like I looked it up. I asked my physics teacher because I saw I would take a lot of physics. And he gave me a response that, let's just say, motivated me to go that route.
Nice.
In a not so encouraging way, let's say.
Oh,
Around yeah. So then basically, um, I applied to a bunch of the SUNY schools, so the State University of New York schools, and I got into Stony Brook. And so Stony Brook gave me a full ride, and so I said, okay, that's where I'm going. I started to be mechanical engineering. Yeah, so I got my degree in mechanical engineering from there.
that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So that was my undergrad experience. I've been to college a few more times after that, but that started me off.
Really? Okay. So did you do any like internships or was there like specific classes maybe that made you think aerospace or because there's just like I know when I was in mechanical engineering, it was overwhelming how many options there were of different industries you could go into, and I had no idea how to choose. So, what kind of led you to aerospace?
Yeah, so I going in, right? Like this is my introduction to engineering. So I'm just taking it all in. And I chose mechanical because it was broad, right? I got a little bit of electrical, right? A little bit of everything. And so my internships were like that too. So my first internship, I did a lot of CAD work for a local product development company. So I was, I thought, okay, well, this is close to what I like to do as far as like drawing and coming up with concepts, but I'm doing it on the computer. So I thought, okay, maybe this will be that. And then I worked actually with a lot of industrial designers at this job, but I don't know if it was the work itself, but I got bored, right? So after a while, I got bored. Okay, I'm just drawing these things on the computer, but the products weren't as exciting to me.
Yeah, totally.
What it was. And then I did another internship at Honda, their manufacturing plant out in Ohio. And so it was there that I was able to work on all these complex systems, right? So I developed a appreciation and a love, if you will, for just breaking down complex systems.
Yeah.
And then I worked at Brookhaven National Lab in New York, and I enjoyed working on a huge campus where there were a lot of innovative things happening and a lot of science, a lot of like a lot of geeky people there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, but they were doing research, right? And they were coming up with solutions to the world's problems, if you will, right? And I did like the fact that there were people who like it was like a upgrade from college, if you will. Like it was a big campus. They, had the cafeteria, right? Like
Yeah.
had seminars that you could go to, talks that you could learn from people. So, and I didn't like having to punch into it. I didn't like to punch in a clock. I didn't like my time being. So I put all these experiences together, and to me, it was like, okay, where could I go where I could work in a setting like Brookhaven National Lab, like on a base? Where could I go where I could work on really complex systems? Where could I go where the the type of work, like it's always something new. It's always something like that. You'll never get bored there because there's always something new to explore. And
Right.
so all of that in my, however, 20-year-old mind, 22-year-old brain said NASA because it's like, okay, well, I could work on systems that are more complex than a car, and I can be on something that's similar to like a base, right? I don't have to punch in. And how could you get bored exploring space? There's so many things that are unknown, like
Yeah, literally.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think NASA's like a dream job for a lot of people, so it's kind of super cool that you got that like immediately. So you said you've been at NASA for 15 years, right?
hmm
I feel like, I don't know, especially for me talking to a lot of colleagues of mine, it's like almost unusual to see people stay at a company for so long. It seems like the name of the game now is like hopping around every couple years and stuff. So what's made you want to stay at NASA? I mean, did you ever think about trying something else, or have you literally just never gotten bored at NASA?
So there's a couple things, right? So when I came out of Georgia Tech, right? So after Stony Brook, I did 2 years. I did a master's at Georgia Tech, and that's when I actually did an internship at NASA. So I'm studying aerospace engineering, and I did an internship. It was a part of the NASA Space Academy. So it's like an internship, but you get way more, right? So you get
Right.
way more. And so that solidified it for me, right? Like all these things I thought like I think I'm gonna get this here at NASA. Well, let me try it out before I decide I want to work there. Or apply for a real job there. And there's a couple of things, right? Number one, getting a job. This was during the recession, right? So um jobs when I graduated. So it was like you want a job that's nice, but the no one's hiring.
Yeah,
All right,
right.
number one, right?
Yeah.
So the crazy part is, or the fortunate thing is, NASA was having a hiring blitz at the time. So, yeah, so they were hiring what they call fresh outs. So, folks fresh out of college. So, they were hiring us. And so, yeah, I was actually pretty lucky that I graduated at that time because most people who come on after college, they're doing co-ops, right? They're part of some program. And so for me, once I got in, of course, right, I was super excited. And they started me out actually in the safety division. So I was not doing engineering in the beginning.
Gotcha.
But in my mind, it's like I have a job, right? Which and I know behind these gates there exists a job that I know I want to do, right? I just have to network and figure it out. So I will say, with the help of a lot of mentors, right, I landed in the division that I work for now, which is the navigation and mission design branch. And it was there that, like, for me, I started to learn more about like I had on the job training, right? I didn't get into NASA and I knew exactly how to do all of the work,
Right, exactly.
right? And I think that's something that a lot of college students sometimes stress out about, right? They
Mm-hmm.
want to go in and they think, okay, I have to have this skill or this. No, just as long as you know how to break down problems and solve problems, which is what you're taught in college as an engineering
Exactly.
student, you'll be fine, right? So I was around all these like amazingly smart people. So it's really hard to stand out. That's number one.
Right, yeah.
But I enjoy learning and I enjoy solving problems. And these are the types of problems that for me, right? Somebody who loves math, somebody who loves science, like they challenge me so much. So they first of all, the work piqued my interest, but then I'm solving problems that most people don't get to solve in their lifetime. Like it's just not on there, right? Like who thinks about how things move in space all the time and have to design things based on that.
Right? Yeah.
So it was definitely exciting place to work for sure. When I came on board. And then this was the first time I had time outside of like work to explore like who I was as an artist.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so in college it was all like I didn't have time to draw anything.
True, yeah.
Yeah. So literally after work, that's when I start picking up the pencil and picking up a paintbrush again and
Yeah.
asking myself, do I still have it? Do I still got it? Like
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, so that's kind of what it is, and that's kind of the journey like to NASA. Like there's just amazing people that you work with. Like you get spoiled, I will say that. So you ask the question of how do you end up staying at one place so long? You get comfortable. That's number one. So I know what to expect usually when I go into the office, where I've been there for long enough. Um, you grow with your coworkers and so you become like a family. So a lot of people I work with, like, I saw like, some of them I went to their like graduation, right? Because NASA, they'll pay for you to go back to school. And some of my colleagues went and got their master's degrees. Some of them have, yeah, like they've had children, right? So like you just kind of like we're like growing up with each other and the the mentality there, at least in my branch where I work, um, we we actually care about each other, right? We care about the work. Like if we cared about the money and that's what we were driven by, we would be in private sector.
Yeah. Right.
So a lot of us care about the work-life balance, which yeah, like that was one of the things that really just kind of draws you into the NASA family because you're around people who care about something bigger than themselves.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's awesome. And one thing that you said that I really kind of connected with was you talked about all of a sudden being surrounded by these insanely smart people. And I feel like there's two ways that people tend to approach that. There's one of being intimidated and being like, "Oh, I don't like you because you're smarter than me," and blah blah blah. But I love that you are like, "No, this is an awesome opportunity. I'm going to learn from you. I'm going to ask you all the questions that I can, and I'm going to be as smart as you as soon as I can." And I think that's something that is lost on a lot of people because of imposter syndrome and feeling scared and intimidated. So that's super dope.
Yeah. I mean, there was some of that for sure. There was
Yeah.
definitely some of that. But again, like it's hard to it's it's like you're competing with people who are winning like Nobel prizes. Like, come on.
Yeah, right.
Like,
That's tough to compete with.
Wha-
Yeah.
right. Like, why compete when you guys can be on the same team? Like,
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
No, that's cool because yeah, I'm kind of the same way of I like learning from people. And like
Mm.
you said, there's always that kind of underlying like jealousy of like, damn, that's hard. I want to know that, but that's how you learn. That's a super good approach to it.
Yeah. Join the team.
Heck yeah, right? So kind of finding your passion for art again, like you said, after you joined NASA and had some time to do it. When is it that you founded Girl in Space and what kind of led you to wanting to do that? Like what inspired you there?
Good question. So, you know, I I was young, so, like literally I worked really, really hard leading up to NASA. Like my life was either just playing basketball. That was what I did like in my leisure in college, right? After Stony Brook. And Stony Brook I actually played on the women's basketball team. I
Oh,
was a
that's
walk
awesome.
on. Yeah. But then after that, like, I attempted at being like the manager over on the girls team at on the women's team at Georgia Tech. But it was a different environment, and then plus the schoolwork was kicking my butt. So
Oh,
after a while, I had to just drop it. Um,
right.
but um, I was finding myself, finding my way, and joined a arts organization. It was called the Sanctuaries in DC, and I was around a bunch of just artsy people. Most of them were like artists in a sense of, they wrote poetry, they rapped, they
Right.
sang, right? And it was like a few of us who actually like either painted, there were a few who did like screen printing. So it was like a real cool like community, very like spiritual even. And
Yeah.
I was just encouraged just being around like other artists like that. And so I started picking up the paintbrush, and this was like years ago, but I remember they did a Facebook Live, and a bunch of them were singing and rapping, and I was supposed to be doing a live painting in the back, right? In the background. And so I'm like, first of all, I'm rusty. So I'm like, I don't even know if I can finish this thing. But I'm just painting in the background. And, because again, most of my life at this point is just mostly doing NASA work. So of course, like subconsciously, like I'm thinking about astronauts, I'm thinking about, right? So this
Mhm.
image of this female astronaut, like her profile, and then locks coming out of her helmet.
Yeah.
Image came to me, and I started painting it, and I didn't finish it during the Facebook Live session, but I couldn't stop painting. So like after they, went offline, I'm still sitting there painting, and I'm like, I have to finish this painting.
Uh-huh.
And when I finished it, I posted it on Instagram, and I got so much good feedback. And I was like, oh, people like this.
Yeah, like,
Cool.
yeah.
All right. So it all started with that painting. And yeah, like I just started drawing more, and everything was this girl with locks, and a helmet, right? The astronaut helmet, and just playing games with that. And so when I would go and I would do outreach for NASA, which I did a lot of that, just as soon as I started at NASA, it was very important to me to reach back.
Yeah.
So Yeah, so I would talk to students, I would tell them my story, and they wanted to see the art. They wanted to know more about, the person I was who who ended up at NASA because the story was very different from my colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how it all started, like literally like with a painting.
That's awesome. Because that's the logo now, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's awesome. Very
Yeah.
cool. Very cool. So tell me more about the mission of Girl in Space, because obviously the fashion aspect and all of that is so cool, but what is kind of the driving force that makes you want to continue to keep working on it?
Yeah, so in during the pandemic is when Girl in Space Club, the brand started like to form. Um, during the pandemic, there was a lot going on. I was in school again. I ended up going back to UMBC, University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and I was pursuing a PhD in atmospheric physics, right? Because the work at NASA, like again, like I'm one of those people who once I learn how to do something, right, and I can automate it, if you will, in my mind. Like I know how it begins, I know how it ends.
Right.
Uh, if I don't add another flavor in there, I get kind of bored.
Yes.
So, so what happened was I pursued science. So I'm like, how can I add science in the mix at work? And I start talking with scientists, and what they recommended is that I um, go back to school, get a PhD, learn the science from scratch, right? And then you'll figure out how to merge that with your engineering and and become what they would call it at NASA. They would call it an instrument scientist, but I don't really work on instruments. But usually instrument scientists are the ones who can speak both the science language and the engineering language.
Right.
So it's a few people who are able to do that, right? But
Mhm.
because a lot of my work is on the engineering side is simulations, it's kind of different, right? I'm
Yeah,
not
totally.
putting any instruments together. So anyway, while I'm doing that, um, long story short, I did not end up getting the PhD. I took the qualifying exams, I passed them, but I burnt out. I
Yeah.
burnt out because this whole time I'm still working at NASA doing engineering.
I mean, that's valid.
Right.
It's a lot of work. That's crazy.
All right, so I'm wearing too many hats,
Mhm.
and I don't think they were the hats that I believe God wanted me to wear at
Mhm.
the same time. I think it was explore this, learn something, but becoming a you kept getting a PhD, that's not what you're supposed to do right now. I'm not sure if it's ever, but right now. So I ended up with a master's degree instead, right? I did a thesis option. I had to defend that. And to me, it was like getting a PhD, what they put me through.
Right. Yeah.
But I ended up um burning out. I took time off from work, so NASA was very, very good about allowing me that time
Mhm.
to get myself together. And during that time, I remember even during the burnout, going through it, there was something that just kept bringing me back to making art. Something just kept saying, make art, go create something, just design.
Mhm.
So I used that time to go to a place outside of the country that was just full of art and design, and that place was Amsterdam.
Oh, super cool.
Yeah. So I came back so inspired. I stayed there for a little over a month, and I took
Mhm.
an art class, and I went to all the museums, and I just walked the streets, and there was just so much creativity around me. And that's when I realized, look, that this something with this is something that I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So I just started honestly just praying and just really like spending time with myself, reading and writing. And it came to me, um, Girl in Space Club. So I remember talking with one of they had like a maker, not a maker store, like a maker shop, but like a store where a lot of local artisans would sell their stuff
Yeah,
in Amsterdam, right? And I remember telling him I had this idea for a flight suit. And I was just explaining it to the woman. And she was like, oh my gosh, if you make that, we would sell it here. And I know it would sell out. And I'm like, okay, bet.
Yeah, right. Confused.
Right. So I went back home and I'm thinking like I'm only going to be back in the States for a little bit because I'm going back to Amsterdam. I want to move there. Right. Like I was just
Like we're doing this, yeah.
right. Like I know what I want to do with my life. But I came back and I started working on just making a suit for myself, to be honest. And then, you know, someone gave me an idea of doing a Kickstarter campaign so I could make a whole like collection, like a line of flight suits. And I thought,
Yeah.
who's gonna wear flight suits, right? Other than the people in Amsterdam. I'm like, people in the States are not like,
Yeah.
but then we just started looking at like the industry more because for me it's important, right, to encourage the youth. Whatever I'm doing, like I'm thinking about the next generation. So I thought, yeah, how could we make this an educational experience for the youth, right? I was already doing things with the youth and I was adding art to it, right? And I was putting art at the forefront and then kind of like indirectly sort of like giving you the science lesson.
Right.
So I thought, how can I do this with this? And I just kept thinking about, okay, well, what's happening in the space industry? And, how can we create something that would involve more people and just encouraging and uplifting everybody, but at the same time, educating the youth. So that's when we started digging and we came across I knew about it, but I didn't think, that in the beginning, like it was just, oh, wait, there are women who are astronauts who attempted to do a spacewalk, but couldn't do like an all-female spacewalk because the suits didn't fit them.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, wait a minute, there's something here.
100%, yeah.
Yeah. So then we just started, I started looking into it and started talking with, folks about it. And I'm like, yeah, this is it. Make space for women.
Yeah.
Because and now I didn't know it was gonna make the impact that it did. I had no
Which is awesome though. I mean,
right.
Wasn't surprised, yeah.
Right. But it was like literally like how could youth, especially young girls, not get inspired by this? And so for me, it was all about bringing those two worlds together, right? The art and design world and STEM, right? Like, or just space. Like, so I'm like, bet this is how we're going to do it. Like,
Yeah.
we're going to solve a problem here, but we need women in the industry, like real female astronauts. I need to hear from them. I need to hear from women who work with, some of the spacesuits or just in general, like pilots who are female and they're wearing these flight suits. I want to hear from all of them. And so I just start doing my market research and I, added I created like a committee, like a advisory committee. And we heard from people who were in the industry and we heard them loud and clear. So we decide, so we said, okay, well, we're gonna break this down into phases. So we already had a concept for a flight suit, but it didn't solve a problem. It just looked cool.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you? Thank you. But the first version of it didn't solve the problem, right? So then after talking with the advisory committee and getting the feedback from everyone, it was going to the bathroom sucks in a flight suit. And a lot of times, yeah, when the astronauts come back, they're wearing a flight suit when they're doing a lot of their PR and, they're getting up and speaking and here and there. So I'm like, okay, this doesn't sound like, in my mind, like as soon as I heard like that was the problem, it made me think of myself like, yeah, you know what that is? It does suck because
Yeah, right?
right.
Take the whole suit off, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I didn't think, you know what, you're right. And then all the women were like, yeah, right. So okay. So as we're just sitting here discussing the problem, solutions just started coming to my mind already. And then I had to go back and start like prototyping, like, would this work? Would that work? Would this work? And literally like, it became something that for me, that thing that happened to me in the beginning when I was originally when I first started at NASA, like that childlike curiosity, that that excitement of doing something new, but also knowing that it's going to affect someone, like it's going to have an effect that's larger than yourself.
Yeah.
That came to me. And that whole burnout thing that I was experiencing, it was like it was gone.
Yeah.
Right? So to me, that was an indicator like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing with your life. If you're excited to get up in the morning and do it, if you are like, I mean, if things are coming to you naturally, you're not really, right? So to me, it's like, okay, well, art always, design, that stuff always came naturally to me. So in my mind, it's like, with my time left here on Earth, these are the skills, these are the talents, these are the gifts that I should be using, right? For the greater good of, the world, if you will, right? Like it's more than just about me. And
Exactly.
yeah, so that's what really like made me keep going with this, right? Because it could have just been a Kickstarter project and okay, we made it and now we're done.
Yeah, like cool.
Go back to work. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy inspirational. I mean, I don't know. I mean, even I struggle with this. I think so many people are afraid to like chase a passion like art or something because they fear failure or maybe a fear of income stability. Like it's so inspiring that you were like, you know what? No, I want to do this. So I'm gonna do it. And the fact that you get to wake up every day and feel fulfilled and happy in what you're doing is like sadly rare. Like it's awesome. So like I guess congrats. Like that's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you. But again, like it's an everyday decision, right? So, we're still small. We're still a startup and we're still like we're not making enough money for me to quit my day job, right?
Right, yeah.
So I still am at NASA. And we're still growing the team. And there are a lot of hard lessons that I learned in this business because I was the the engineer who was just, thinking that the world works like it does inside of the NASA gates, right? And I'm going to specifically say NASA Goddard, right, where I work, because every NASA center has its own culture, right?
For sure. Yeah.
But where I'm working, I don't really worry about people backstabbing me and these things, right? But when you get into the business side of things in the world, right? You're running your business. You have people who tell you like, "Oh, I'm going to do this. I got you. I know how to do it." And the next thing you know, you're thousands of dollars short on something that you have to do,
Yeah.
right?
And that's terrifying. Yeah.
Yes, it is, but it is if you talk to any business owner, I'm sure they have stories about, people who said they were going to do one thing, money was exchanged, and Yeah, they got the shorter end of the stick. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not all glitz and glamour. There's lots of lessons to learn, and I think you're right. It is risky, very much so. I would tell anybody who wants to start a business that it is risky, but that's why you have to have that thing in the back of you, in the back of your mind, if you will, that's going to keep you going. And it has to be bigger than yourself. Like it has to be something that's going to keep you motivated, right? Because it's not for everybody. I mean, it's not.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. But I am thankful that, I do have a job while I'm taking these risks. Right.
Right, yeah. It's like a nice like backbone to have.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Yeah.
Well, that's very cool. Yeah, looking at all the Girl in Space Club stuff, it's something that I wish was around when like I was young. I don't know, because I also kind of was going to graduate high school and I was like, wait, what major am I supposed to do? Like, I don't know. I didn't think this far. Like, same with the valedictorian and stuff. I was like,
Yeah.
I have no clue. I came from a really small town that I didn't know any engineers, or I don't know, going to work for something like NASA or anything in space, it felt very unattainable. It felt like
Mhm.
that's so hard to reach. So
Yeah.
yeah, I wish that, girls
Yeah.
very around earlier, because that would have been super inspirational to me. So it's awesome that you're creating it now, because
Yeah.
I think it's powerful.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I mean, but that's the point, right? Like for, girls who grew up like you and I, right? Like, I mean, I didn't know anybody who worked for NASA. I didn't know any engineers either, right? And I'm like, okay, I could be a nurse. I could be
Yeah, right.
a teacher, right? Like,
Yep. Yep.
like, no, I mean, again, there are people that there's nothing wrong with those fields, but I knew it wasn't for me,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know? And I didn't know any people who, like famous people that made it from where I am, where I'm from, like Eddie Murphy, right? Like, right? Like Dr. Julius like Irvin, like the famous basketball player, Dr. Day. Like, but nobody in science that I know of, right? Maybe there was somebody, but I just don't know them. But
Exactly, right?
yeah, like that's and I didn't know anybody who knew what to do with the science and math. Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
they're like, yeah, just do well in school. And I'm like, okay, I did that.
I did that, so what's next?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So, but I do think about the 13-year-old version of myself when I was a kid. Like I definitely was the kid that didn't feel like I fit in the box.
Yeah.
I was not like everybody else. And when I was young, I had a problem with that, you know? And so what we try to do with Girl in Space Club is celebrate that. You don't fit in good.
Yeah.
That's the good thing. Yes, like that means you're the one. That means you're going to be the one that charts a new path probably for the rest of us, right? You're going to be the one that thinks about something differently and creates, something that we need in the world that doesn't exist, right?
Exactly.
So that's the whole premise, right? Like really being the inspiration and really because space is like my jam, like that's where I am, right?
Yeah.
I'm bringing it down to earth so that we could start thinking more outside the box, so we could start thinking more about a future that where we don't know that arena that well. There's so much to explore. And so, yeah, for me, it's like, this is perfect. Like you can educate and inspire and make things look good all at the same time.
And that's like the awesome thing with Girl in Space. It's kind of like we talked about earlier. It brings everyone on the same team.
Mhm.
All these women who have good ideas and who are different, and it puts us all on the same team to achieve somewhat of the same goal and innovate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And we have our allies too, right? Like, again, like, I think a lot of times for instance, in the streetwear world, like I'm a big like I love clothes. I like sneakers. A lot of times though, it's like women are thought of course, as the afterthought. And you can tell that from somehow in some cases how the clothes look, right? It's like, oh yeah, that's for guys. We only go down to a size small. Okay, well that's not gonna fit.
Yeah. Especially with shoes. I'm like, I want the men's version, but
Yes, yes.
that's not gonna fit me. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, luckily that my foot is like, I mean, it's not that big, but it's like a men's 7.5. So
There you go. Yeah.
I'm like, at least I can get a men's shoe.
Yeah. Right.
Like it's the smallest of the men's shoe, right on it. So it's like sometimes they have my size, sometimes they don't. Like if I wore 8, maybe a men's 8 in shoes, like maybe I would get more. But again, the purpose that I'm trying to make here is that for Girl in Space Club, we flip that. Like we design first with the women in mind. And then, right, I think for women sometimes because we come in all different shapes and sizes, we are the more challenging of the, population when it comes to apparel, right? Creating stereotypes. Yeah. So then for men, I feel like that's the easy problem to solve. So once we solve it for women, oh, men, we got you. Like that was, so
ED after that. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I love it. That is just awesome. And I keep eyeballing your hat. I gotta get me one of those. Like right after this, I'm gonna go buy one. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Super sweet. Well, I know you're busy, y'all. I don't want to take up like too much of your time. So I'll ask you one more question, kind of as a little closeout. And I know it's a hard one, I'm putting you on the spot, but if you had to pick a single person in your life that inspired you to get to where you are today, who would that be and why?
I would say my grandmother, right? My grandmother, she's still alive. She's in her 80s, and um, there's something about her that, and I think she gave a little bit of this to my mom too. Like, there's nothing that she can't do. Like, it's like you think about something, and she's already coming up with a solution. Like there was, grandma knew how to sew. Grandma was, doing our hair. Like she was the beautician, right? Right? Like she made your clothes for you if you more so for my mom than for me, right? But grandma could make anything. Grandma could cook. Grandma and real good. Like so she was like the jack of all trades.
Yeah.
And for her, she never stopped laughing. Like even today, she's very witty and she's a jokester. And I think from her, I see more solutions than I do problems. So if I see a problem, I'm already thinking about it in terms of how to solve it. I don't so it's hard to stay down, I think, for me for too long. Because I'm thinking about the opportunity to solve a problem, not that the problem exists. Dag. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like you're immediately going to a solution.
Yeah. Now sometimes my friends, or family members, they don't want to hear the solution. They just, they just want to vent. I was like, okay, Sabrina, hold on to the solution over here.
You're like, I don't want logic.
Right, exactly. Just come with your heart. And, but I would say my grandmother because she's endured a lot in her lifetime and the fact that she's still able to bring laughter and just see like the joke of, you know what I mean? Like life is
Yeah.
she's playing this game of life, I think, like in the best way that you can without like taking things so serious that you take yourself out of the game, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I love that. That's incredible. That's sharing that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for asking.
For sure. And like I said, yeah, I don't want to take a ton of your time. So thank you like so much for coming on today. It has been absolutely awesome to talk to you.
Yeah, same here. It's been a pleasure.
And I can't wait to keep following Girl in Space and order some dope clothes.
Oh yeah, we gotta get you Girl in Space Clubbed out.
Heck yeah, I'll be representing out there. I love it. It's awesome.
For sure.
Well, thanks again. And yeah, to everyone watching, thank you guys for joining. And as always, go do something awesome today. We'll see you next time.